So basically an expression is any value that can be reduced to a single value. And okay, so what does that mean? Well, one example is just 64. So let's see what happens here. Well, it actually returns 64, which you're probably used to this returning undefined because everything we've done so far hasn't returned anything, which just returns undefined. This 64 is one expression. It's something that gets reduced to one value. That value is 64. So expressions are very commonly combined with multiple expressions. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If we say 64 plus 10, now this is like one expression. This value right here will get reduced to one single value. It's going to get reduced to 74 because you could add them together. But both of these values on their own also get reduced to a single value. The 64 gets reduced to 10. The 64 gets reduced to 64, and the 10 gets reduced to 10. Okay, another expression. Okay, another example is, what if we did greater than 64 greater than 10? So before it tests which side is greater, it needs to reduce both sides to a single value. And you know what? Because right now this might not make much sense to you, and it's okay if it doesn't make sense, because the example that I'm giving isn't the exact best example, because both of these values are just literal values. There's nothing to get reduced to. You might think there's nothing to get reduced to. 64 is just 64 and 10 is just 10. But the way the engine works, the way JavaScript is working, is it's just taking those values and it's just reducing them to themselves. That's what they're equal to. So when it's checking if something's greater than, it needs to take the 64 and realize that it's equal to exactly 64 and then test if it's greater than whatever's on this side. But if we did this, now there's a bit more going on here. 64 is gonna remain 64, but on this side, before 64 is checked to be greater than whatever this is going to be completed. So right here, what's highlighted is an expression. It's something that can be reduced to a single value, and this is going to be the same as doing this. So when we do this, it's going to say false. 64 isn't greater than 10 plus 80. If you just say 10, then it's just true, because 64 is greater than 10. So let's go back here and go back to this example here. So the 64 just gets reduced to 64, which is normal. But then, as I showed a moment ago, putting the 10 plus 80 is like the same thing as doing this. Then also, this entire thing gets compact to one value, which is just true, which is what you see over here. So let's go back to what that was. Actually, let me just do this. So both of these things there are two expressions right here, and they both get reduced to the same value. This one is just automatically false because that's all it is. So that's false. And this one is false, but it needs to do some work first. It needs to turn this into 90, and then it checks this, and then it gets returned to false. And you could also do you could also do less than, so you can say 40 less than 10. You could say less than or equal to. And you could also do greater than or equal to too. Alright, before I end this video, I want to talk about the difference between a single equals and a double equals. So let's say let pi is equal to 3.14. and then you want to see if pi is equal to 3.14. Actually, let's say 3.15. Let's see what happens here. So it just returns 3.15. It's not returning false, which pi isn't equal to 3.15. But actually, let's do this. So what do you think is going to get logged with this pi? Because we've already seen before in the last video, assignment, which is when you change the value of a variable. So 3.15 gets logged. So right here, we're not actually checking if pi is equal to something, we're making it equal to something. If you wanted to check if pi was equal to something else, you'd have to use the equal symbol, two equal symbols. And then it actually returns false, because now you're not assigning, now you're checking for equality. You're asking JavaScript, is this value the same as this value? And they're not. And if you put 3.14, then it says true. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video.